Hey guys, it's Peyton, and today I'm going to be talking about the 12 books that I read in September. Now, it's pretty shocking that I actually read 12 books in September since I just started my second year in college, and how the heck am I doing that? Like, I'm drowning in homework, and honestly, I think the credit goes to the Stranger Things readathon, which is something that I co-hosted with some friends. It was a month-long readathon where I read literally every single one of these books in a series of 4 weeks of reading vlogs. So if you want to see really in-depth thoughts on each one of these books, definitely go check out all of those vlogs, give them a like as well as this video, and subscribe if you want to. But I don't know why you wouldn't want to. Just saying, I'm pretty cool here talking about my books. It's enjoyable shit. And I would say I have pretty mixed reviews, but a lot of books that I loved. So let's just go ahead and get into it. So the first book that I read was actually a reread, and I ended up loving this book just as much as last time, maybe even more. And that book is Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller. I really feel like I have to sneeze, but it won't come out. This book is the first one in a duology. It's fantasy, and it's all about this girl named Alosa. She is the daughter of the Pirate King, obviously. She is a captain of her own pirate ship, and she's just a plain badass. She's compared to a female version of Jack Sparrow, and I feel like that holds true. She's just so charismatic, courageous, confident, and amazing. Like, she is just such a cool character and exactly the type of person that I love to read about in a fantasy series. One day her father really wants her to find a missing piece of this treasure map that a lot of people have been trying to find for ages, and they know that one piece is on this enemy ship of theirs, and Alosa decides that she is going to go undercover and allow this ship to kidnap her, make them think that they actually kidnapped her, but she actually let them, and she's going to be their prisoner. And at night, she is going to unlock herself from her cell and look around the ship to try to find the missing piece of the map. And once she finds it, she can get off the ship and she's good. But there is the first mate of the ship, which is the brother of the mean-ass captain. And he's really cute. He also has a great personality, very tough dude, but maybe a little bit of a softie inside. He's the one that's always asking her shit, trying to learn about her because they're trying to use her to their advantage at this point, and don't realize that she's trying to play him, but he has a feeling she's up to something. Their dynamic is so much fun. I literally eat up this book. They are adorable, but it's like a slow burn thing, and they literally hate each other because they're on opposite ends of the pirate world, and they're supposed to hate each other, but oh my god, I literally recommend it so much. It's such an underrated fantasy book. The next book that I read was actually the sequel, and I reread that one because I have been wanting to read the sequel for a while, but I just forgot too much, and I just thought it'd be better if I reread the first one. Really glad I did that because I ended up being obsessed with Daughter of the Siren Queen by Trisha Levenseller. Yes, there's sirens in this book, so if you're into that shit, it's in this book. It's good times. It's so fantastical and amazing, and I just highly recommend these books. Even if you're not that into fantasy, I feel like these aren't too complex of a world or anything like that. I feel like anybody could enjoy this. So, Brittany and Books, I'm talking to you. I recommend this to you. Once again, I love this book for the same reasons as the first one. We see Raiden and Alosa get closer, and I love that. I also really love this book because the first book was mostly Alosa as like the underdog. She was trying to hide back her skills so the people wouldn't be able to realize that she's actually a badass. But in this book, she lets her badassery loose. She is the captain of her ship, and she is a literal queen. We see all of her friends. Like, this is her world in this book. I really enjoyed actually seeing her full potential, and ended up being a lot more enjoyable of an adventure. It is chef's kiss, for real. The next book that I read was Star Daughter by Shevta Thakrar. I probably mispronounced that, and I'm sorry. I ended up giving this book a 3 out of 5 stars. That's not like a bad rating. It was just a pretty average book for me, and I'm kind of sad about it because the cover is just so pretty. I don't know if it's showing up well, but it's so pretty, and I wanted to be obsessed with this book so much. I definitely think this writer has great potential, and I want to read the sequel if there is going to be a sequel. It just didn't end up wowing me as much as I was hoping for, but it's about this girl named Chital, and she is half star, half human, and stars are like from this celestial court in the sky, and they're just like extraordinary beings, not really human, and they have like silver hair and just extremely beautiful. They actually have the power to inspire people to make creative things, to make creations, so like art, music, things like that, which is really interesting. And this book is inspired by Hindu mythology, I believe. It's all about how Sheetal accidentally hurts her father with her star powers. He might die, and she knows that stars, full-blooded stars, have the power to heal people with their blood, and her mother disappeared from them years ago. She went back to the celestial court, and she decides she needs to go to the celestial court in the sky so she can hopefully get some blood to heal her father. Once she goes to the celestial court, they end up forcing her to be in this competition against all these other artists. She's like a singer, and they have to prove their worthiness or whatever, like being the best artist. I don't fully know how to explain it. The competition aspect was kind of underwhelming, to be honest. She has to do that or she isn't allowed to go home, and the whole point is to heal her father. I thought the relationship between her and her father was cute. I could respect that, obviously. It just wasn't anything bad about this book. I just felt like it did feel like a debut novel. I wasn't particularly interested in the romance or really the plot, but I definitely thought the world was interesting and the writing style is pretty. So I think this author has great potential, and I will be checking out her other books for sure. The next book I read was actually for class, so I'm not going to talk about it too much because I just don't care, but it's Hard Times by Charles Dickens. I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars because I didn't feel that much about it. I did write an essay on it, so I kind of have an understanding for this book, but it's mostly just about the Industrial Revolution and how it has impacted people back in the day and how it's made everybody like a thing for sale, even if they're a person. I had a character that I liked in here, and they had a very sad ending, so I'm pissed. Holy shit, I am dying. The next book that I read was A Blazo Black by L.L. McKinney. I read this one on audiobook, and I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, so pretty good rating, and I had such homey vibes from this because this felt like such an urban fantasy that I would so read like in middle school, like one of the first books that I've ever read. Like it gives you that urban fantasy like Shadowhunters Chronicles vibe. It's actually really similar to the idea of Shadowhunters because it's actually a Alice in Wonderland retelling, but the main character Alice, she kills these things, these monsters called nightmares that come out of Wonderland into the real world. She lives in Atlanta and she kills them to protect people. So it kind of does have that Shadowhunter demon hunting vibe. She has been training to do that for the past year, and when her mentor, who actually is from Wonderland, he gets poisoned, she has to go deeper into Wonderland than she ever has before so she can hopefully heal him. It's such a fun adventure, and I cannot wait to pick up the second one. I actually own it, so I'm probably going to read it hopefully soon so I can continue, but I had a lot of fun with this, and I feel like it's great. The main character is actually bisexual. Doesn't really touch on it that much in this book, but I think it does in the next one, and I've heard people say that, and I could definitely tell that there was some female romance vibes. I just felt a connection between the main character Alice and this other character, and I'm really hoping that in the future books that happens, because in this book she's more interested in this guy, and like yeah, he's cute and all, but really I want her to end up with this girl. Like, I just feel like it'd be spicy. Like, I want to see that romance happen because it just seems like an interesting dynamic. The next book that I read was also a book for school. It was The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I've actually read this before and I reread it. I also wrote an essay on this one and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I think it's an interesting story. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but it's just a book set during the 20s. During the partying ages, and it's a lot of suspenseful, mysterious things about this man named Jay Gatsby who has been throwing these parties, and his possible backstory with this woman named Daisy who's married to this other man who's also super rich. They have a past and they're about to reconnect in this book, and it's interesting. It's probably my favorite classic. I actually feel intrigued by the story when I read this book. I'm also not that into classics, so whatever. The next book that I read was The 100 by Cass Morgan. I read this physically and listen to the audiobook, which was a fun experience. I really liked doing that. I never thought I would read this book. I actually owned this before and I unhauled it. Then I bought it again. I bought the whole box set and I plan to do a whole reading vlog for the rest of the books to see if this book series is better than the TV show, because I'm so mad at the TV show right now. I haven't even watched the most recent season, but the last episode of the entire show just aired the other day and some horrible things happen that just completely goes against all of these characters and their motivations and what they would actually have done, and the storyline, and just everything was ruined with this choice that whoever's making this show decided to do. And I know that in this book series, it does it the way I would have wanted to. And this was different in a lot of ways, but some of the key things that I cared about, like two of the characters, were really similar. So it kind of was everything. And basically the premise of this book is Earth has died, and a century later we have a space colony. People are living in space and they're running out of oxygen, so they kind of need to go back down to Earth. Earth died because there was so much radiation, and they're going to try out and see if this patch of Earth is livable. The way they're going to do that is they're going to send 100 kids down that they have locked up currently because they committed crimes, and anyone that commits a crime in this space colony is instantly murdered unless they are a child, just because they're so low on oxygen. It's just how they kind of have to do things, and it's terrible. Our main characters are a part of this group of 100 kids. They're sent down to Earth, and they quickly realize that they're not alone on Earth, and people are dying, and like shit is just going wrong. It's really interesting. There's two characters that I love so deeply from this show, and they were similar enough in this book that it made me really happy to read. And I gave it a 4 to 5 stars. It was probably actually a 3, but my nostalgic reasons connecting to the show that I've been watching since middle school really made me excited that the two characters, Clark and Bellamy, are similar enough in this book. The next book that I read was Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. I loved this book. 5 out of 5 stars. It was just fantastic. I got all these tabs, but I will say heavy trigger warnings. It literally has a list. Mentions of sexual abuse, rape, assault, child abuse, kidnapping, and addiction to opioids. So if any of that is triggering to you, definitely stay away from this book. It's a heavy book. Don't be fooled by the yellow cover. It's not happy. It is so emotional, and it made me cry a lot. I genuinely love this book so much. It's so important, and it's about our main character, Enchanted, which, by the way, I love that name. It's so freaking pretty. She is a singer, and she's like 17. She lives in New York, and one day she comes across this guy. I forgot his name. His name is Corey Fields, and Corey Fields is like super famous. Like, everybody knows him. He's a big singer, and he comes across her and says she's great at singing, blah, blah, blah. He puts his number into her phone. They start communicating a little bit too much. He's just being weird. He's being a pedophile. And yes, there is red flags in this book, but she's so young and she's so excited that someone that she's looked up to for so long is giving her attention, and she's just not recognizing these red flags. Things get worse and worse, and it's just a terrifying story. You watch this girl fall apart throughout this story because she's just getting abused so much. I was so invested in this character of Enchanted. I wanted her to be okay. It's such a powerful story and very important because I feel like this could help so many young girls realize these red flags, like see them just in case something like this ever happens to them, and to get out of situations like this. The next book that I read was Bookish and the Beast by Ashley Poston, and I loved this book so much too. 5 out of 5 stars. This book was everything. It is the cutest thing. It is the 3rd book in this companion series. You can read them out of order if you want to, but I recommend doing publication order. So the first one is Geekarella and the second one is Princess and the Fangirl, and these are just like a little companion trilogy of these fandom obsessed teenagers. There's this fandom called Starfield. It's just this sci-fi thing, and it was a TV show. It's a bunch of novels, and these characters love it so much. So in this book, our main character Rosie, she's a huge fan of the Starfield book series, and it means everything to her. Books mean everything to her. And that's what was something I love so much about this book, because I love reading books about characters who love to read so much. So if you love bookish books, literally in the title, like if you want that vibe, this is the vibe for you. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. With this, we have the other character, Vance. He is an actor in the film series that's currently going on for Starfield, and he's a bitch. Like, he is a snooty, snotty little boy. What the frick is snooty? I think it's a word, though. We're gonna say it. He's just a bitch in this book, and, you know, he has potential, but he's angry at the world right now. And he gets in a really bad publicity moment, so he has to retreat to this small town that Rosie Thorne actually lives in. He's in this little mansion that nobody has like ever lived in her town. One day she finds a dog that's just running around, and she chases after it. It goes into the mansion. She follows the mansion. She sees the massive library in the mansion with her favorite books in it, grabs one of the books, freaking is scared by Vance Raines when he randomly shows up, and they destroy the book that is priceless and like probably worth thousands of dollars because it's just a really old edition. And then they have to work off the debt for the person that actually owns the house and organize the library. That's how they start to meet. They start to soften up for each other, and it's just the cutest little hate to love romance. I love it so much. These characters are adorable, and I highly recommend it. This whole trilogy is so adorable, and I'm actually disturbed that this is like the last one in this book series. Like, come on, Ashley Poston, give me more content. I need it. The next book that I read was Ghost Squad by Claribel A. Ortega, and I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. It's a middle grade book, and it's about these two girls. They're best friends, and they accidentally unleash a whole bunch of ghosts in their town. Our main character, Lucily, she actually sees all of her past family members as ghosts. They're actually little fireflies, and when she lets them loose, she can talk to them. It's so cute. What am I what? I don't know what I was gonna say. But when they let all these freaking ghosts loose, and they're like bad ghosts, and they're like trying to do bad shit, they have to get a plan to try to reverse the curse that they accidentally did. And one of their grandmas ends up trying to help them. And it's just a cute little Halloween story. I believe it's becoming a movie, and I feel like this would be a really adorable movie. And it's compared to Coco and Ghostbusters. I just don't really like middle grades that much. It has to be really impressive for me to be obsessed with a middle grade, because it's just not really my genre. And I feel like people that really loved middle grade would be a lot more into this than I would be. The next book that I read was Who I Was With Her by Nita Tyndall, and I loved this book so much too. 5 out of 5 stars. This book means everything to me, and I just randomly picked it up at Barnes & Noble, and I'm so glad I did. It's literally about a girl from North Carolina. I literally live in North Carolina. One of the acknowledgements is my professor. Like, how cool is that? I love everything about it. Like, it's everything ever. It's everything. Okay. But this book is depressing. Like, it's about grief. So know that going into it. It's about this girl named, why do I forget everybody's name? Corinne. She is a closeted bisexual girl. The only people that know is her girlfriend, Maggie. She's been dating Maggie for a year, and Maggie dies. She gets in a car crash and dies, and that's like the whole point of this book. Nobody really knew that Maggie and her were together, so she can't really grieve her publicly. She can't tell her friends, she can't tell her parents, she can't tell anybody how much Maggie meant to her. The only person that knows is Maggie's brother, but she's kind of not having a great relationship with Maggie's brother. Maggie's brother's kind of blaming her for a lot of things. And understandably so, because Corinne's a flawed character. They all are flawed in this book, and I really enjoyed that. And there's a plot line also in this book about how Corinne connects to one of Maggie's ex-girlfriends named Alyssa, and they just bond over the loss of this girl that they both cared about a lot. There's a little bit of a romance thing, but it wasn't anything strong, and it wasn't something where like wow, we really ship those characters. Because I fully ship Corinne and Maggie. Because this book is from a series of flashbacks. There's a lot of flashbacks throughout the book. And we see Maggie and Corinne's relationship and how they got together and just every cute little moment between them. Even their fights. Like, we see these characters in their flawed moments. And this book is a lot about Corinne realizing what she wants as a person, not what Maggie wanted for her. She doesn't have to follow the dream that Maggie wanted for her. She can do what she wants to do. And she realizes that throughout the book, that she does not have to do what anyone else is wanting her to do. Like, she can do the dreams that align with her. It made me feel so seen. It just was so great. And this girl is just so terrified of coming out to anybody. She's just not ready to do it. And it's a lot of her headspace on just coming to terms with her sexuality and eventually coming out. And I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend this book. You need to read it. The final book that I read, I actually listened to on audio, so I don't have a copy of it. It's Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed, and I give this book a 4 to 5 stars. This is an adult contemporary novel, which is not my normal thing that I read, but it's about these two adult women. One is this white woman, Alix Chamberlain. She is a mother of 2 and she is a babysitter. And this babysitter is Amira. She's a black woman. She's a little bit younger than her. And she's just doing this job because Alix pays really well. Like, she was paying really well for this little job. And it's mostly about how Alix is just way too obsessed with Amira and seems to have a lot of performative activism. That's like the main theme of this book. And there's like an incident that happens in a grocery store where people are trying to call the cops because they think Amira stole the kid. Which is like, what? Like, why would you just instantly assume that? No. That's actually like a really small part of the book. It seems like it's going to be the whole plot of the book, but it's not. Like, there's a lot that goes on in this book. A lot between those two characters and their dynamic. And I thought it was really well done. I don't really have any gripes with it. It was really good. So those are all the books that I read in September, and I really enjoyed them. Let me know what you read in September. If you read any of these books before, let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear them. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Like it, comment down below. Have a good day. Please subscribe and make sure to follow all my social medias, which are linked down below, and go click the bell button, which is right by the subscribe button, which you should have already clicked, and goodbye.